Thank you very much, Councilmember Nancy Navarro, for this content from Montgomery Community Media. Right now, we are seeing, and it's happening now in cities like Bethesda, Gettysburg. We have seen protests, and they've been pacific so far, but it's crucial moments right now. What is your message and the message from the county council to the police department during these times?
Well, you know, I think that the Montgomery County Police Department, and we've seen some of this already, understands the concern, understands the deep-seated pain that exists in our African-American communities, as well as other communities of color who have had to witness situations of great, great concern. We saw in Germantown, for example, some of our police officers taking a knee with protesters in solidarity. And I think that's really important because we have had cases in Montgomery County that have been really unfortunate and that have led the county council to pass particular legislation to make sure that community members are able to give advice and guidance to the police department. We also have legislation to ensure that whenever there is a death, for example, that a police officer has been involved in, that there is a public way of accessing records. We, of course, passed a racial equity and social justice legislation, which is supposed to really be a framework to examine a lot of these issues and then take action. And so in many ways, I feel like, especially last year, the county council had worked really hard on a number of legislation to address many of these deep-seated and rooted issues of discrimination and of police brutality and things of that nature. I think what we're seeing in the county right now is twofold. I think it is a response to, hey, we really need to make sure that we are examining everything and working on even more proposals, for example, which we are in this moment, but also in solidarity with what's happening on the national level. And so on the one hand, I'll have to be honest, on the one hand, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, here we are, we just did, phase one of the reopening, and there's still a pandemic out there. So the mom in me is always worried about, are young people going to be safe, but they're, not going to be exposed to this virus, et cetera. But on the other hand, I totally get the pent up need to go out there and also be part of this collective voice to say enough is enough. And I know that we have said this before. I think that this is a transformational moment in this country. The confluence of the pandemic and then also George Floyd's video, that murder on the street, it's something that I believe has come together to define, I think, people's, position, if you will, I think it has awakened something in many people that perhaps before they thought, well, it's too bad, or, oh, gee, maybe we can address it this way, or maybe it's somebody else's issue. I think there's this collective awakening to say, this is not who we are in this country. We can't accept this as the status quo. We need to always seek to do better. And to me, this feels very transformational. So I'm very proud of what I have seen. They've been very peaceful, protests, and I think our young people have given voice to something that is just so painful. And when you hear many of the young people, especially our Black young people, when you hear them talk about how maybe for some this is devastating, but for them, it is something that it's lived day after day, with the microaggressions to the overt police brutality. It's a daily thing, and it does something to your psychic. It does something to your mental health. It does something to your overall health to feel like on a daily basis you have to confront and you have to address and you have to conform and you have to educate, and it's exhausting. And I think that's also a lot of what we're seeing is that our young people, our Black young people are saying we're exhausted, and so it is our collective responsibility to take stock and to come together. And I was saying, it's especially important also for our Latino community to very much understand this and come together in solidarity, because as a block, Black and brown people can really, really achieve a lot. And I think, as you've seen in the protests, we also have a lot of white young people, older white people, everybody who's also, who also are saying, hey, we see you, we hear you, we're here as well. So as horrible as it is and as painful as it is, I feel a sense of optimism and hope that something transformational is happening right now, and we're witnessing this. It's just overwhelming because, again, it's within the context of a pandemic. But I believe that the goodness inside of so many will definitely overtake a very dark moment here in our country.
Councilmember, I assume there's a lot of people that want to participate on those protests and support the cause, but they are afraid of the pandemic, and they're afraid to be out there there's thousands of people protesting. What is your advice for those people that want to also raise their voices, but they're afraid because of the health issues?
Absolutely, and so there are so many things. Today is June 2nd. Today is the primary in Maryland. Absolutely vote. You still have time to do that. That's super important. Number one, I know in social media has become this virtual way that we communicate. So absolutely express your support through social media as well. Also, when things began to get better and we start to open, et cetera, really think about how you can make a contribution in your community and be involved in an uplifting way, in an authentic way. Be there to uplift, be there to mentor or to volunteer, be there to speak up, be there to support. It's so important and so critical. And I think very important also, as local, from the school board all the way to US Senate, it's important to vet candidates to see exactly how much do they really know about these issues, how much have they done, not let me check the box and say that I stand for diversity and that, I care about, no, let's talk about what it is that you actually understand and know. What actually will you do? You're an elected official, what about your staff? Does your staff reflect the county? It makes a difference. It really does make a difference to have, staff as well as elected officials that reflect the community. That is so important. It's not just about having people who work for you, but it's also having people, who are there to make the decisions that come from those communities, right? You got to share the power. It's not enough to say that you stand for something. You have to also kind of be real and be willing to share the power, so that in those spaces where decisions are made, that you look and you say, look, we have some Latino people there. Look, we have some Black people there as well. Look, that is real, true democracy. And so it goes from, again, the very micro that you do in your neighborhood or in your community, all the way up to the decision-making spaces, and real, in an authentic way, allowing people to do what they do. I feel personally, so grateful because I've had this amazing opportunity to represent District 4 on the County Council, and I, serve on the Board of Education, and it's just been an amazing thing. But in all honesty, I had to literally step up and confront a lot of barriers to get there. And it's okay, but we need to make it easier to younger people of color that are coming through, who can bring those diverse ideas and also those perspectives. So yes, I think there's so many different ways. These protests should not be the only thing that we do, because then it's kind of like the same old, where the news cycle ends and then we go and move on to something else. I think we all need to recommit ourselves to doing more in a targeted way, in a strategic way, to really bring equity and not just do it to check a box, to really, really commit to equity. And that's, I think that's extraordinary work that we can do together.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Nancy Navarro, for your time and this opportunity to talk to Montgomery Community Media.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you very much.